Come on.
Okay.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, but most importantly, happy birthday!
Yeah.
We're 5. I don't know. I don't have a kid, so I don't know what like milestones. You know, obviously we're talking. We're. I'm sure we can run. You know, we can sort things into different colors and boxes and triangles and those things. But we're going. We're 5
We're
years.
ready for kindergarten.
We are, yes. We're gonna go learn some more, which is great because that is actually something that is so cool about being a company that is, young in the grand scheme of things, but actually very old in the age of crypto and blockchain. Is we are still learning about a lot of stuff, right? And one of those things that we are going to be talking about today, X402. But before we jump into everything, we do have to talk about Scale's birthday. But before we do that, let me introduce you guys to my lovely guests, Mr. Jack O'Halloran and Stan Kladko. Jack, how are you doing today? Big milestone for you guys. What's going on?
Well, hey, I just to stop for a second and say, I got up today and I was like, 5 years Scale has been around. Okay. Mainnet 5 years. The Scale Lab has been around for almost 8 years, but Mainnet 5 years. And I was thinking about Stan and thinking like, wow, look at everything we've been through. We've been through a lot. Like we've been through ups and downs and good times and bad times. But overall, like just, an amazing experience. And I got to say, like, I think about everybody on the core team. I think about all the validators. I think about our community members. There's a lot of you listening that you've been with us this whole time. Think about all the developers that have been building on us. We've had certain devs that have been building on us for so long. There's been, let's see, over 62 million unique active wallets have hit the network in over 5 years. We've done over 232 million total blocks. We've had, or I think that number, I think there must be running out of zeros. There's more than that, but we've had 1.827 million total 1.827 billion total transactions. Okay. So 1.8 billion transactions in 5 years. That's a lot. Okay. But I got to say, I'm like kind of emotional about this because blockchains aren't just a normal thing. They take a lot. You give a lot and it feels good. It feels good to celebrate a birthday. What do you think, Stan?
I actually, I don't even remember how this 5 years passed. Maybe I was just approving pull requests or fixing bugs. I don't like it. It is weird for me. I think, but I think like it's fair to say that we really became like a family. I mean, that's something that really is like different for Scale. Is that many of the people when we started, like when we launched the network 5 years ago, lots of people are gone. And lots of blockchains are gone, and we kind of keep on running and like improving our stuff. And you count like the number of commits in our source code. We have like tens of thousands of commits. There are some people that like calculating how many commits each project has, and I think we are like number 2 always have been after Ethereum. So we have lots of source code, lots of exciting technology, and what pretty much never happened over these 5 years, we never crashed. There was never a security compromise, so the smart contracts worked very well. And here we should say thank you to D2 and his team. I think the smart contracts team was really doing well over these years. So they never got anything stolen like other people, and never got a crash. Like never was like, oh, like on Twitter, or like this morning, Scale crashed, and the team is trying to figure out what's going on. Like Base crashed. I think like a couple of weeks ago, Base crashed like for a year, for a year, for an hour, and lots of other blockchains crashed. We never crashed. So I think the technology is doing really well, but we are kind of entering the new stage. Everyone is excited, and we are ready for the next 5 years and even more of Scale.
Even more, indeed, man.
So hey, I got to tell you, when I was in Korea last week. So I missed all of you last week. Sawyer jumped in my spot. Thankfully, we still got one out. But I was talking to a guy who was part of a project that started the same time as us, and they're not around anymore. Like, I don't even know if the token exists or what happens, but you never hear them. And he's like, "What? You guys are the OG project. You're one of the few that's still around and doing well. Like, wow, I can't believe it." You know, and he's like us, and he lists off all these projects. And you think about it, there's so many crypto projects that started in 2020 that just you never hear of them. Okay.
I remember like EOS. Remember EOS when there was this like Dan Larimer, and they were supposed to be the computer for everything. And where are they?
Yeah.
Many projects, you know, like, and some projects, like I read like on Cointelegraph, like people like start a project and like leave next year. There was this like story project, and they just
the guy stuck around for like 6 months, invested, and then left. Apparently, like that's.
And like I think Aptos guy also left.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not blaming them, but we're not like that, I think.
Yeah, we're not like that. This guy. So, and then I was going to this Cointelegraph had this pitch competition for all these like new startups and new people, and I was like, "Oh yeah, hey, meet me over there." And this guy's like, "What are you doing going over there? You're an OG project. These are all just little startups." I was like, "Hey man, we're going to meet new DeFi projects. We've been meeting 3 different DeFi projects that are going to be building on Fair." And I said, "Hey, you got to support the new guys. We were new at one point. Just because you're OG doesn't mean you don't go to support the new builders." And that's kind of like our motto. You know, we've always been humble and like working hard and getting stuff done. But yeah, it was you know, here we are 5 years later. It's surreal. It really long and really fast, Dan. I hear you. It's almost like, where did the time go? But then you think about the days and you're like, you know, long. It's like raising kids. They say the days are long, but the years are short. And the same thing with the blockchain.
Yeah, I remember like I got my first dog. It was like this. And now the dog is like 10 kilograms, like super like fat.
It is. Jack,
reminds me of the years.
I've never actually heard that phrase before, and I absolutely love it, because genuinely it has been like for me, you know, I'm coming up to a year, and it doesn't feel like a year. It feels like 3-4 months. The days are long, but everything is it just goes by so quickly. And you know, that's one of the amazing things about Scale is, and I think one of the reasons why it feels like that is because we're not sitting on our laurels. We're not just kind of going with the flow. We are innovating. We are doing new things. We're doing new exciting things. But most importantly, we are always trying to stay and are actively staying ahead of the curve, such as like Fair, encrypted blockchain, and you know, any new potential opportunities that are interesting and beneficial to us as a business and to the community. You know, we're acting upon. It's incredible.
So, hey, before we go, let's give one quick round of applause for the community. All of you who've been with the project this long, like, we appreciate you.
Irma,
Flensman,
yes,
a lot of you out there.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you.
It's Flensman. Yeah, Flensman's still kicking. I mean, Flensman's kid is now.
Oh my god.
It's crazy to think that Scale is older than Flensman's kid, which is kind of weird. But yeah, and a massive shout out not only, you know, to the amazing employees over you know, at Scale, the foundation, but also to our partners, right? You know, our day one partners, the projects, the dApps. You guys are, you know, Scale is built for you to utilize blockchain technology the way that it should be used. Gas-free, fast as fuck, extremely efficient, and just absolutely, you know, technologically bounds above other people. But then also to the people that help keep it all safe. So to our validators, you know, Block Demon, Timu, Baragon, even our new ones, Pairpoint, by Vodafone, and everyone else out there.
like shout out to the custodians. I gotta say, BitGo stepped up really big when we launched, and there was just, you know, it was everyone was launching, like not everyone, but there's 6 or 7 proof of stake networks launching in that same 2 to 3 month period. And BitGo stepped up and did a ton of work and custodied, you know, did professional custody with staking enablement. And yeah, we've had so many partners that just stepped up and made stuff happen. It's been awesome. I mean, I'm looking here, like, need to just do a sort, browse by categories in our, let's see. I mean, DApp Radar has been huge for us, right? You know, Block Scout, we're doing, you know, using Block Scout for a long time. Transact doing ramps. What's that, Stan?
Block Scout is fantastic. We actually, you know, it's open source explorer, which is better than some other explorers that charge lots of money. Yeah. So this like Block Scout is great. I think it keeps on improving. And they just had a new release, and it's just so much better.
Yeah, and you look at Sequence, My Ether Wallet, you know, a bunch of, yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of really great partners. Let's look at the validator list real quick, and then we can get back to. But, you know, OneNode, Anchor, Blockdaemon, Blockware, Chorus One, CipherCore, Figment, Fresh Staking, Infinity Stones, My Ether Wallet, Anon Stake, ChainNode, Easy to Stake, Hashkey Cloud, Fresh Staking, Nansen, Wolf Edge, Staken.
You guys, the goats, everyone. Right. Without you, Scale is just you know, just the people, not just the people. The people are amazing, but you know, we need partners.
And the trolls are gone. You know, we have no trolls. All of them are gone. Our trolls are gone. Trolls, please come back.
I've been taking them out one by one. Just, you know,
it's amazing. There'll always be some unhappy people, but hey, we're always working hard. We've got big ambitions, big goals. So
yeah,
trolls will come and go. Core community is always going to be here. So,
and that's why we love you. So,
and also, hey, last thing, we get a birthday present.
We do.
We all get a birthday present. Inflation drops.
Yeah, we're actually entering this huge new period of dropping inflation. And by October 1st of the next year, the inflation is gonna drop twice. So it's gonna stop dropping steeply. I think people asked us if we can reduce inflation, but now it's actually being reduced anyway. So
it's always been on a reduction schedule.
Yeah, and then they're gonna publish the actual numbers, but it's actually going to drop really fast.
Yeah, we're dropping 17% this year.
Yeah,
it's that's big. In one day, we dropped 17%.
And that's gonna then half every 33 years from now on. Mm-hmm. So that's another big deal.
Yeah. So we dropped today 16.67% of inflation. And then next year we drop. I'm going to keep on saying until I can find the exact number. I
think it's another 50%.
50. It's 50%.
Yeah. I think it's coming.
So this time next year, inflation is going to drop by 50%. Yeah. So you know, it's great for great for those people that are interested in that. And you know, it's going to be continue to drop. And then is it 50% every year from then on? Every 3 years. Every 3 years.
It's actually similar to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But it's actually not like Ethereum. Ethereum has constant inflation. It's not really dropping.
I didn't know about that, right? And now, so now we're on the ADHD tangent now. So I was with Sawyer because a couple of months ago we were going through tokenomic related items, and you know, max supply and total supply are two different things, right? For people that I personally didn't know that, but max supply and total supply are different, right? Total supply is the current total supply of the token,
or max supply, I think, currently.
Yeah, for us. But there are so many tokens whose max supply is infinite.
Yeah, we actually have a capped supply, which is a huge value. And so people are like, oh, and if you have an infinite supply and you're like, we're burning, like, you better burn. You have infinite supply. We actually have a capped supply. It's a different ballgame.
It's also impossible to change because it's actually in the smart contract, and the smart contract is not upgradable. So it's impossible. There's no way to change. It's like Bitcoin, basically. We have 7 billion limit, out of which like 6 billion is printed already. So we do need to like exponentially decrease inflation like Bitcoin, because for the rest of the universe, we'll have 1 billion tokens to print. So it's going to dropping really fast.
The weirdest one that I noticed that had an infinite supply was Dogecoin. How can a meme coin have an infinite supply of tokens? Like, isn't that like that's so weird to me? You know, Ethereum infinite supply, Solana infinite supply, BNB infinite supply. I think Tron infinite supply. And you know, these are some
people don't understand Falcor. I mean, it's a big difference. Like, you know, Scale is a small project, but I don't expect people like save Scale tokens for retirement. But people do actually save Bitcoin for retirement, and Bitcoin is guaranteed to have fixed supply. So it's like you have an island, and you're buying a land on this island, but the land is finite. So that makes Bitcoin so special. Unfortunately, like Ethereum doesn't have it. So when people like hodl Bitcoin, I think, you know, it's still a good strategy. You just need to wait like 50 years. But the fact that the supply is limited for Bitcoin definitely makes Bitcoin is pretty strong.
Or maybe not 50 years, and we'll get to that in our second topic.
Yeah.
But unless there's anything further,
let's roll. We got some topics to hit. We got some
stuff. We can't be yapping. We're already 20 minutes in. We're gonna start going down to one topic a week, or a 2-hour show. So X402. Everyone's been seeing it across the timelines. I've had Sawyer yapping in my ear every single day for hours about X402, machine-to-machine payments, API. 1 cent versus subscriptions, all of this. Stan, explain to the people, what is X402 and why does it matter?
Yeah, so actually this is kind of a big news thing inside Scale, and we had lots of discussions over the last couple of weeks. Basically, every 10 years, there's a technology which comes and like changes everything. And I think like 10 years ago, first it was Bitcoin, then it was Ethereum, and then basically for 10 years, people created like clones of Ethereum, which were like faster, but also more centralized. But then I think these 10 years, they're running to the end in the sense that, you know, the technology is clear. There are some positive and negative things, but we don't really see much payments happening. When Satoshi Nakamoto was releasing her white paper, it was all about payments, but people really don't use much of like payments or crypto payments. They mostly trade crypto, hodl crypto, or speculate, don't really like pay to each other. But I think the X402 opened this kind of floodgate where suddenly everyone is like, there's like a feeling that all of the startups and VCs and the community like basically jumping on the same thing, and it's kind of creating lots of momentum. So people were waiting for momentum for this market cycle, and it was mostly speculation, I think. But people were asking questions, what is the next thing for this market cycle? And I think it's clear now, absolutely, that X402 is this kind of a new generational technology, because everyone is like suddenly doing it. But for Scale and for Fair, we have this absolute advantage of being super fast and being able to accommodate pretty much unlimited number of transactions. Just to give you an example, just from crawling, when like ChatGPT crawls other websites, if there are payments for web pages, you need about 100 million transactions per day. Just from one application of AI to AI, where the crawler crawls websites and pays a little bit to each website. 100 million transactions per day. And Scale is the only network currently able to do it, because we are able to launch so many chains. And that makes us special. But another thing which we don't, other people don't have, is fair and making things private. Because when if suddenly the floodgate opens and people start paying for everything, if you go to Starbucks and you pay for coffee, you don't really want your neighbor to see this. Actually, it's okay for the government to see this. You know, we're all like sending documents to tax agencies every year, so people are okay disclosing things to the government, but not to their neighbor. You know, you don't want your entire life to be published on the internet and all of your friends and like not friends know about it. So privacy is hugely important. So with FAIR, we have privacy. So it's basically like an aha moment for us where inside Scale, we basically like looked into this thing happening, and it's happening really fast. Literally, in a matter of days, you have new projects, new things happening in this 402 space, the AI payment space. And we realized that's we need to like turn around everything. So we made a decision that everything inside of Scale and FAIR is now going to focus on X402. It's just because it's such a huge potential, you know, like suddenly payments, and not only just human payments, but payments of machine to machine, actually we can do them. So lots of activities from now on FAIR and on Scale is going to go into X402. And we believe that we can have the best ever X402 payments for two reasons. First of all, we can have unlimited number of free transactions. You can have micropayments of any tiny scale. And the second thing is that with FAIR, we can do privacy. So we are and we can cooperate with other chains, you know, but the core payments on X402 on Scale and FAIR will be private, and they will be really fast and absolutely inexpensive.
Awesome. So hey, Stan, I want to like let's do a little like almost like deconstructing of what this is for people who are like less technical. Let me tell you kind of my understanding of this, and let's like, you know, tell me if this is accurate and like expound upon it. But so apparently there's this thing called like HTTP 402 that's kind of a dormant code in every single web server. So every website is able to use these like HTTP like payment mechanism so that payments can be made. But the internet's kind of broken. It's not made for money to being transferred. You have this weird shit with like traditional financial rails. Then you throw in X402 is kind of leveraging that like 402 mechanism, but like inserting this like call to the blockchain. So basically you let a regular website become, you know, or a web server or a machine or, you know, a robot or a driverless car, anything that kind of has this connection point, more easily access automated money and payments. Is that fairly accurate or?
Absolutely. And it's kind of a dream which didn't get realized for like 30 years, because the guy who founded internet, like Tim Berners-Lee, in the protocol, he saw that some of the web links are going to be like free and some of them are going to be paid, because they were thinking about business model for internet, right? Yeah. So basically, he actually included this code where you go to any location on internet, and this location, this URL, anything you can type in the browser, actually can have the price. So it can respond instead of you're used to like you cut and paste into the browser and you get it. Turns out the protocol has a different mode where you cut and paste and it comes back with a message, please pay. And you pay, and then you get it. So that was the idea, like for 30 years ago, whatever, 40 years ago, when they developed this. And the problem why this idea never materialized was it was impossible to implement, because the internet is a global system, but all of the payment networks, all of the payment methods are like local, even like MasterCard. You know, people are many countries where people don't have MasterCard or Visa. So there's no like global payment network which could be used for this. There was nothing like that for like so many years. And the only thing which can be used is crypto, because none of the existing payment networks can do this. So, but with crypto, you can pay, like anyone can pay. But then I think the catalyst to it was AI, because now suddenly why this problem is suddenly so critical is because of energy. Actually, when you go to ChatGPT, I don't know if you guys know or not, every time you type something in the ChatGPT, you burn 10 cents of energy. And if you say thank you, ChatGPT, you burn another cent. So don't say thank you. So it actually uses lots of energy. So suddenly you have this like thing
it's
where
not polite to thank your AI.
Don't do this. Yeah, somewhere like they start like cutting trees, like whatever, like like or some dictatorship needs to sell more oil, whatever. So don't say things. And so basically, so you have this huge, because before that it was never like that. Like you run some kind of a SaaS, some web page. Every single page didn't spend so much money. Suddenly now it's so expensive. You need to charge. Before you could do subscriptions, but now because every single time you do something, it's so expensive, you need to be able to charge per one thing. So, and it's huge for AI because, like, to give example, myself, right? I do lots of things of AI because at scale, I'm a CTO, so I do need to have it. So I have one subscription, which is Google Ultra, really great, by the way, Gemini. I pay $150 per month. I'm doing videos, also lots of coding. And I have another one from ChatGPT, which is like 20. And I believe I have another one now from GitHub, from Microsoft, this Copilot thing, because I need to do GitHub. So I have 3 subscriptions, and I need all of 3 of them, 20, probably 150, something like that. But the point is that I'm already done. If there is like another like AI service on the internet, there's no way I'm gonna get another subscription. I already have 3 subscriptions. So how are these guys gonna make money? The only way for them, for these other services to actually have a business model is to charge me per request, because then I just have my crypto wallet and I pay for it. So it's a matter of survival actually for these startups, for these AI startups. If they want to survive, they need to get this new payment method. And that's why they are like so excited. Otherwise they will die essentially. Yeah. And then you have this momentum happening where the community wants it, they want it, people come up with new applications over it. And it's like, like when this happened, there was like a hockey stick, Jack, like it's like this and then it goes like this. And this
it's almost like it's like usually when you do this like technology adoption, you need to wait for everyone to get something so you can go to them. It's almost like, it already exists. It's like we're just all of a sudden can just leverage the internet. Like every website all of a sudden can be a payment machine. Is that correct, Stan? And that's kind of my understanding. It's like we're taking this dormant, reserved for future use code.
Absolutely.
And they're like, oh, we don't need everyone to go download a wallet. They already have this ability all of a sudden.
It's there. That's probably the reason why everyone is so excited. You don't need to modify browsers. You don't need to modify web servers. It's there. It just hasn't been used. And so that actually makes things very fast. You can just use it.
Yeah.
So
I think that's part of the story that needs to get out. Like when I learned that is when I was like, oh wow, this is really exciting. That like there's a story here. This guy, and you told me even more, Stan, this like that it's like the inventor of the internet created this because he saw this ability to make payments automated. It was just lacking, frankly, blockchain and serverless blockchain, right? Like the story is coming or gas-free execution. Like if you think about it too, if there theoretically could be like 100 billion payments a day. If you're paying an eighth a cent, half a cent, 5 cents a transaction, it's impossible. Like you need to have a more efficient, predictable business model, which I love that about scale.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I just when you're talking about like the thank you thing, here's a crazy idea. Gonna get off topic for just 1 second. What if all these people who hate AI, what if they just did like a DDoS attack and they all just said thank you like all day long? The thank you attack. The server like quit thanking us. And they're like, thank you. We hate you, AI.
I love that. That's actually really cool. That's actually a great point, right? Like from a because we all saw it with when ChatGPT released the image editing functionality, right? Like ChatGPT went down for 4 or 5 hours. Then they put in rate limiting, and they sorted it now. From a obviously, I love looking at use cases for scale and the scale chains and things like that. And with this idea of peer-to-peer, machine-to-machine payments and transactions, you would be able to offload a lot of that kind of computing power to the likes of a scale chain, versus when you have like a billion people, let's just say, mass adoption hits on the same day, and a billion people are coming in doing micro transactions, right? Couple cents every couple of seconds. You are going to run into those issues of rate limiting and server stability and things like that. So Stan, like how concerned, or if people don't adapt and they still use kind of these traditional outdated methods, how concerning could that be to people that are interested in X402?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think we need to look and ask a question if what we have now is actually good for X402, right? Base is great, doing great. The Coinbase and Base, they're supporting X402, and they have a great network. And it's a little bit centralized, but arguably, for the purpose of paying coffee, Base, the fact that Base is centralized is probably okay. We're all learning to adapt to cases where consumers don't actually need so much decentralization, right? Like, for instance, Stripe also released a blockchain, and it's kind of centralized, but it's okay if you want to pay for coffee. It's not like you're hodling Bitcoin for your entire life. So that's okay, I think. But the problem with Base is that actually is limited capacity. They're doing 15 million transactions per day now, and they are already 100% jammed. So if this thing takes off, there is no way Base can just take more transactions. But there's another thing which is even more important, I think, which is privacy. And here we're coming back again to this, but now it's becoming really, really important. Do you want your average ChatGPT query to go to blockchain, right? It's pretty sensitive stuff. Like, government is now subpoenaing OpenAI for the ChatGPT queries. They don't want to release them. So it's pretty sensitive, I think. And so if people use Base for these queries for payments, do they want these queries to be publicly available to everyone, or the payments publicly available? And I think what we can offer with Scale, we can offer help. So one idea which we have, and we're still exploring this idea, there's no really X402 application software. It's all the protocol, but there's no Salesforce for X402, or there's no Google Docs for X402. There's no application which is easy to use by regular people. So one thing which we are thinking about is if Scale can develop an application level, easy to use thing, which makes X402 payments incredibly easy for everyone. And then what we can do, we can actually be neutral and support all networks, not just Scale, but if someone wants to use Base, one could use Base. And also there could be a really interesting aggregation possibility where, people use Scale for the actual transactions, and then the aggregated transactions go to Base. So I think what we find is that Scale can be used to address these two kind of bad things which we immediately see. First thing is that the networks are jammed. Base is great, but it's jammed, right? And they're also public. But we can use Scale to address both things, both using Scale as a standalone network, and also, frankly, in cooperation with other chains. We could do the privacy part and then send aggregated transactions to Base or to anyone else. So we're really excited about actually creating this application layer and make it an open source and neutral for everyone, and see how industry actually responds to it. To give you an idea, is that basically want to create something like Explorer. If if X402 is a protocol like internet, then browser is that what you want to create. You want to create something that a human can use, that you don't have to learn X402 to suddenly be able to accept payments on your website, for your application. Something really nice and easy, and just make it open source. And we are starting to do it, and really excited actually to do it both on scale and on Fair.
Yeah, by the way, here's a use case that kind of made me realize more what this can do. So apparently Cloudflare is like starting to pilot this mechanism where AI bots basically are crawling all these websites, but they're going to use the 402. They're going to have this 402 response basically, and the bot's going to have to pay to crawl it. And so like your Cloudflare instance, make sure you're human, it prevents against DDoS. But if you have this bot here that's just trying to suck up all the information for maybe training an LLM or who knows what, each time it does that, it might have to pay a half a penny or a hundredth of a penny or some amount, but they're just looking at using the 402 response system and not even using crypto. But I don't know how you could do that without crypto. Like it's just, I think X402 is the way to do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think I like what you're saying though, is like with scale, we have this deep infrastructure. When that is scale, it's also we're going to be able to implement Fair or Byte protocol to that. And what that does is it lets somebody make a payment without someone seeing what the balance is, this privacy or confidentiality. Mm-hmm. But you still just have this like bunch of deep code. There's not really a system for people to use to set this stuff up. And so I think what Stan's saying is there's an opportunity potentially. We're not going to formally announce anything today. You can, but there's an opportunity to just build some core software to make this more usable, and which makes scale even stronger because we have this. You're a developer and you want to use this. Well, okay, you're going to just go read a bunch of documentations and try to pull a bunch of source code, or hey, you want to use some software to use this, and that's you see like open source products that have done well are ones that have like systems on top of it that make it easy for developers to use.
I think the other thing as well that's super important to kind of remember is, gas fees are a thing that exist. And if you are going to be doing, let's say, Cloudflare wants to charge 1 cent for every web page that they want to do. Instead of that being 1 cent, when you're taking gas fees into account as well, you could be paying an additional 40%, 50%, 60%.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to do this on Ethereum,
cost, right?
Your total cost exponentially increases over time. And, that's why I would assume why the likes of Cloudflare and things like that aren't, super into the using blockchain for something like this, because that is an additive cost that fluctuates.
Yeah. Gas fees, if you're doing a $10 transaction and you're only paying, 0.2 cents, 0.3 cents, you don't care. Even if you're doing $100, you don't care. $10 and 0.0, yeah, it's pretty small. It's like not that big of a deal. But if you're doing a 1 cent transaction, a half a cent transaction, it's 20 to 40%, depending on what the numbers are, in that range that you're paying. And that's a high rake. That's a high fee. And so we have a huge advantage here. I think give props to Stan, Sawyer, some of the other team that like saw this early and saw an opportunity to get there early. Cause I think you got to be early. You got to be early to market, to grab market share when these things go. And if this thing goes, it's going to go big. It's going to go fast. It's already like right now, one of our biggest challenges in crypto is that there's only a certain amount of crypto wallets out there and people that have them and use them every day. But guess what? There's an almost unlimited number of computers and servers that have a 402 integrate. It's just built into every system already. Pretty cool.
Very cool. Stan, anything more on X402 before I switch us over to the next topic?
I just want to just finalize this by saying it's like existential thing. If you guys think about this, the entire internet was ad financed by ads, right? Like if you want to know how do you like cook a curry, Thai curry, right? you go on internet and someone wrote a blog post how to cook it, or Wikipedia article, right, or whatever, and you read it, and these people need to be paid, otherwise they will stop putting this information on internet. And they were paid until this year, literally, by Google AdSense. The Google AdSense was sending billions of dollars to these people, actually supporting them. But now people don't go to these web pages anymore, to these blogs, to these Wikipedia pages. They just go to ChatGPT and ask, how do you cook curry? And you don't get anything on your web page, and basically you're gonna die. And I think kudos to Sam Altman from OpenAI. He said that this is something which needs to be solved. Even OpenAI needs to understand that, like, when Google was paying for AdSense, it was good for Google. Same way, it's good for OpenAI to support these people, to find a model to support it. But it's going to be super interesting also, like, how do you charge? Is it like auction? How do you know how much to price? Maybe the pricing itself can be like an auction on blockchain or anything like that, or like a market. So there's actually so many interesting questions, but the system absolutely needs to be developed now, because these people don't have money now. You know, they don't get any more visitors to their sites. AdSense doesn't work. So this is a critical problem. Literally, I don't want, like, for mankind. We all read internet, right? And so it's a huge thing, and then actually it's really exciting to work on it.
Yeah, you know, if the incentivization of running a website, you know, stops, where are these AI companies going to get their information from, right?
Exactly.
It's almost biting the hand that feeds you. So it makes sense why Sam Altman wants to try and find a fix. But, you know, X402 is very, very exciting, very, very interesting. Lots of things that could happen. And, you know, we'll keep you guys updated on anything that, you know, Scale and Fair does in relation to that. But I want to quickly scooch us on over. I'm going to butcher this so bad. Young Hoon Kim.
Wow.
Also known as the smartest man in the world, with an IQ of over 276, has done a prediction. Now,
Wow.
Jack, this is your story and your news. So why don't you take us away? Who is he and why do we care?
So this relatively smart human has just announced that he thinks Bitcoin is going to 100x. Okay. And I believe, what is the time frame, Falcor? Is it 10 years?
10 years.
His,
10 years.
Yeah. So his IQ is 276. This was in BN Crypto. It will 100x in 10 years. And it was kind of funny the way he said it. He said, based off my theoretical analysis, which, you know, the guy's serious. He's talking theoretical analysis. All right. Who knows what's going on in his brain? So let's talk about this. Like, this guy's obviously pretty smart. Usually people that are that smart, I think, are either incredibly right or incredibly wrong. I'm inclined to think he's onto something. And I think my guess is, like, he's thinking this analysis of, like, if we keep having inflation across numerous currencies, if Bitcoin is something that every country can agree on that it should be a reserve, then, because what else is a global currency that doesn't inflate? And I think that is where the win here is. It's not, we're not going to be buying stuff with Bitcoin. It is the reserve. It takes over gold. I think that's another part of his theory. It's going to become the ultimate reserve asset. And, you know, hey, maybe the guy has a little, like, you know, financial incentive to predict these things. I don't know, but I to be honest, I don't think it's that crazy. I think it could happen. What do you guys think?
I can tell you, I'll tell you guys like a politically incorrect story from the past. We were actually
be careful with where we're going here. I might be kicking you off the stage.
We went to, I think it was 2018 or 17. We went to Bitcoin conference in Miami, And there was like a party, and there was a guy, like a teenage guy there, and he wasn't even drinking alcohol because he was underage. And then I was just talking to the guy, and the guy says, like, I'm an investor, I'm investing in startups. And I'm like, how come you're like teenager and you invest in startups? And he told me the story that he was from Canada, and in Canada, he was not like a believer of Bitcoin. He just was selling weed in Canada. And because of that, just he needed to get paid. And he just kept lots of Bitcoin. And so he absolutely had no predictions that Bitcoin would go up or whatever. He just needed for his business, like people like paying him in Bitcoin. And actually, and then he got so rich because Bitcoin was needed. So I think, like, it's definitely, usually people say, when everyone has the same idea, it's kind of, you cannot make so much money. So usually when things are too obvious, it's like, if you like buy something, it's better that other people don't have the idea that it's going to grow a lot. If everyone says it's going to grow a lot, but on the other hand, this interesting development, for instance, I've heard that governments, they have access to lots of energy, because imagine this, you have somewhere like in the North Pole, you have this oil, whatever, you cannot really use it because it's so far away, but you can actually burn it there, create energy and mine Bitcoin just on the spot in some crazy place. So I've heard that the next stage is going to be like that. Actually, all of the miners are going to die, not die physically, but as businesses, and that governments will be miners, because governments have access to cheap energy and potentially regulations to allow, like mining in these particular places all over the world. So if governments start like mining Bitcoin, then it's not difficult to predict that it will actually become like a global currency. It's almost inevitable that it will happen. And I don't know, like about 100 times, but it may be like a different way to say it is just to say that, like, in our lifetime, it may be that in our lifetime, Bitcoin will be pretty much the thing. So it's like, we used to use phones, like regular phones or fax machines, and then we are using internet. And when the internet started, people didn't think that fax machines would get replaced. It may be that like everything is going to get replaced in our lifetime, and it will be just Bitcoin. And then how much it's going to cost, we don't know. But the fact that it will be just everything, like now, like it actually, I think it's a very credible story that Bitcoin will take over everything in terms of financial world. How much it will, the price is a different story. But then definitely the world is going to change, because it's kind of crazy. But like countries will depend on it, and like it's crazy.
I think it's there are people out there, like obviously the American dollar, is widely considered the currency for trade, right? But there are, parties out there that don't want the US dollar to be that, right? They would want their currency, but then other countries wouldn't want their currency. So why not pick a decentralized currency that has set fundamentals, set tokenomics that the entire world can understand, and you can run all of your trade off of that.
Yeah, and I think too, I think it's going to be less. I think the dollar is going to get even stronger because of USDC and stable coins. The dollar is going to permeate, but guess what the dollar is going to be backed up by Bitcoin. It's more that like the reserve current. And here's an interesting thing. It almost reminds me of real estate or like natural resources, where people who didn't get Bitcoin early, a lot of them just hate it because they are like, oh, well, these other people were able to buy at lower amounts, and then they want to tax everybody so they can take their Bitcoin and get some of it, through taxation. Like there's this whole like, oh, like it's not fair. But I mean, how do you feel about real estate? Like, oh yeah, I moved to California in 2006. Guess what? All the people who were living there before me 30 years, 50 years before me, they were buying homes for a fraction of what I have to buy it for, right? Like if you get somewhere early and you buy real estate, or let's look at natural resources. There's some countries that just have a ton of oil. And if they didn't, they wouldn't have anything going for them. And, you know, you look at countries like Venezuela, they have a lot of oil, but they also have been buying a lot of Bitcoin, you know, because they're feeling like, how do we get ahead of the game? And so it's going to be interesting if there is this 100x in value in 10 years because it becomes a global reserve currency. What is that going to do to like global power? And that's why I think a lot of people have been trying to really push the US to go and buy Bitcoin as a reserve, because if you get there early, you're going to have a bigger advantage on all the countries that don't. And my guess is that there's some of that going on into this guy's theoretical analysis.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I think if not even talking about price, just the fact that everyone has the same ability. Like you guys probably don't know this because you're like from more like Western countries, but in most countries of this world, the only place you can actually hold your money is like in your apartment in US dollar cash. So I remember I was like studying in Ukraine at university, and then basically all of my money was just in my apartment, and they kind of deflating like because of it was just cash US dollar. And the funny thing, when I moved to the States, and then I would like go back to Ukraine, and I would go to the US bank, like Bank of America, and like ask for some cash. And then I would like stand there and like look at every like banknote just to see if there's like a scratch. Because in the US, people don't care if it's scratched. So there's like something actually write something on it. But in Ukraine, even like a tiny scratch, they don't accept it. So de facto, this Bitcoin, quote unquote, existed, but it was just paper US dollars that people all over the world, like in India, in China, in Ukraine, you know, like in Latin America, in Africa, they just basically kept in their apartments, and this was just losing value, and you couldn't invest it. So like even like here in Portugal, I mean, just 10 years ago, there was a big crash. So in the US, you can reasonably put some money in a bank. Here in Portugal, you know, the banks are so unstable. They're crashing all the time. Mm-hmm. So they're not really, you cannot put money there. And it's Europe, mm-hmm. right? So just the fact that you can have like something on blockchain, it doesn't actually, you know, like it's not like Silicon Valley Bank, right? Even in America, it can happen. So just the fact that you can have like money in a safe place is huge. So I think it's fantastic for people.
Well, funnily enough, we're talking about banks. Swift announced some interesting things last week. Those of you who don't know what Swift is kind of the cross-country payment process. I think what I said is accurate. But they have partnered with Consensus to build a blockchain settlement system for an always-on real-time transactions. So, question, Jack. What does that mean? What does this mean for your everyday human?
Yeah. So first off, is this going to happen? I don't know. Like these things are early. Like they are working with Consensus. Consensus is one of Scale's partners. They helped launch the Scale network. They're part of the VC group as well. Like so, Consensus has a lot of smart people. Like I think they can deliver. I just don't know if this thing's going to ever get through because it takes a lot of coordination. But what I like about it is it just shows you that even Swift, which is like, you know, this global banking infrastructure for payments, a system, they're realizing they're outdated and they're saying, hey, if you can't beat them, join them. Let's start using stable coins that have instant finality, instant transfers. Now, one thing that's interesting with Swift, I'll give you one advantage it has. I had to get this surgery on my knee. I had to pay send the doctor a payment. And the person she sent me the wire information for an intermediary bank. And then the money was just stuck there. And I was like, well, I paid you. I sent it to the wire information you gave me. And then she was saying, oh, well, okay, I'm going to, you have to go get it back. I'm like, well, no, I sent it to where And so then I had to go and like work with like Swift, my bank, and my bank had to like go through this Swift channel to then have the payment reversed. And so the interesting thing is like I got the money back, and then she, her mistake was corrected. I was able to send it directly to their receiving, not their intermediary bank. And then they got it. But if that was on blockchain and it went to the wrong address, no one would get it back. So Swift does have some advantages. So what I'm wondering is like, you can obviously fix that problem with smart contracts. You can have money that goes somewhere, but is there some way to call it back? Maybe not. Maybe things like one of the beauties of instant finality and blockchain are things are just done. That's why when you send someone the money, they have it immediately because you can't go get it, call it back. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear what Stan thinks on this because
actually, right? This is a really good example. I think something that we discussed, Jack, yesterday also, that the industry, there's a huge change in the industry. Like the industry, like splitting into three pieces. Like if you like blockchain industry, first piece is just blockchain is just a database. It's a very effective database, actually much more effective than Oracle. So this is kind of still very early. People don't replace Oracle with blockchain, although Oracle is like $1 million per year per node. I think this is going to be big, but it's not happening yet. The second piece is decentralized store of value, like Bitcoin. This is how blockchain started. But now there's a third piece, which is digital money or programmable money, where it's centralized, but it's programmable, and it's also digital, right? Base, for instance, it's centralized, but it's okay for people who who use it. Stripe is launching this thing, other corporations launching other things. So they're like purists, blockchain purists that say this other thing, that digital money without decentralization is bad. But I think in reality, consumers just get what they want. It's just going to be two different industries. One industry is you want to hodl Bitcoin, and then you have to have super decentralization. Other industry, you might want to pay for a cup of coffee, and then you may use Base or like X402, or maybe with Scale. Maybe decentralization will not be so perfect. So it's a huge thing, I think, because people like early, like original gangsters, they preach decentralization, but the industry is not going where they think it's going because it's getting more centralized and more like, there are more cases where it's like super centralized, a little centralized, all of these kind of gray areas. And the purists don't like it, but in reality, consumers want it.
Yeah. Sid, here's a great example of this. Circle, there's reports that Circle's new blockchain that they're building internally will have a function to reverse transactions. Which is sacrilegious in blockchain.
Absolutely.
Okay. But why are they doing it? Because they want the money. They want the banks to use them. Banks want to be able to call a transaction back like they can with Swift. I think Stan has a good point. Neither one is going to be wrong or right. They're just going to be different.
Yeah.
There's going to be blockchain and crypto that works for these use cases, and blockchain and crypto works for these use cases. And like, hey, is like, am I going to all of a sudden have my Bitcoin be reversed on me? No, it's a different blockchain. But if Circle wants to have their own blockchain and banks want to be able to reverse a transaction, well, maybe our religions are going to split, And
I think that will be still purists, but they will lose ultimately, unfortunately. They're really good people. For them, it's religion. But for many people, it's just technology. And, this is the example where there was this open source movement. It started as religion. There was this guy who started copyleft movement. He wanted to just kill capitalism, corporations, Open source GPL license started as a religion. And now it's just a technology tool. There are different licenses. People still make money. So it lost the religious, effect. But it became widespread. Everyone's using open source now. But it's not the open source that like Richard Stallman was thinking like is copyleft, kill the corporations, kill capitalism, just make everything free. It didn't go this way. So it was somewhere in the middle. And I think people, the purists in the blockchain community, they are stuck totally. I had situations when I'm asking them and they just don't respond because you're giving them facts that, things are getting centralized. Even Ethereum now, Coinbase, Binance, Lido is like controls Ethereum. Which is, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just the reality. And people who have this purist set of mind, they say it can't be like that. It has to be thousands of nodes for everything and owned by different people. But it's not like that. It's universe is different. And so this thing is like getting them stuck. Another thing which is getting them stuck is like that everything has to be public in the block explorer. If you like suddenly don't have a block explorer and then don't show every transaction, they will again their head will explode because of the religion. If it's religious, you cannot go after, like, you cannot change the dogma. So I think for us at scale, if we become more startup like and actually get people what people want, if they want this, we'll get them this, not what we think they should get, but what they actually need. So, but it's a huge thing, I think. And now, like, Stripe launched this chain, and everyone is like, oh, Stripe chain is centralized. But, maybe people that use the Stripe chain, maybe it's okay. Maybe just they have another, partner and make it a little decentralized.
Hey, Sandy, it actually reminds me a lot of religion. So, like, if you look at, like, the history of Christianity, there was just, like, the Catholic Church, which was like the universal church. And then, then like this Martin Luther split. And then now you have this whole spectrum of people in Christianity who some people are like really conservative and they are so tight about every single thing. And then these other people are like, we kind of like this, but I'll do what I want to do, in
the States,
the same way. Like, there's going to be the purists, and then the people that are like, well, I kind of like blockchain, but I also just kind of like other stuff,
Yeah, I think that's totally true, and it's the winners, the survivors, as always in the startup world, will be the ones that will adapt.
The pragmatic ones. The pragmatism wins, and we learned that too. And I think we learned one mistake we made. I think we did a lot of things right. We're at 5 strong years, but sometimes we were a little too pure on decentralization and things. We were real purists, and we grew up in this purist era of blockchain development. If you weren't pure, then we see some of our competitors that were way more centralized. They cheated, they cut a bunch of corners, and they did really well. Some people, and the reality is the pragmatists always win.
I agree. That's actually the lesson that we learned through this 5 years is that's actually how we make things better, be more pragmatic. And I think that's what we're going to do.
Yep.
100%.
Live and learn, baby. Live and learn. Let's do it.
That is, 5 years done. I'm excited for the next 5 years. Who knows? Maybe in 5 years, maybe we'll do this exact same thing in 5 years' time. Will we all still be here? What will we look like? Who knows? Join us in 5 years' time. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out and chilling. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. Stan, thank you. Jack, guys, again, congratulations. It's incredible. 5 years of amazing blockchain innovation and excitement and just some incredible stuff. But for the people watching, listening, we are going to have to go because these two men are very, very busy and it's hard to even get an hour out of their times. No, I joke. We love doing this every week. Guys, make sure you're following Fair. Make sure you're following Stan, Jack, and Scale, of course. It's been a pleasure. Anything final from my two gentlemen?
Just let's celebrate the birthday. Got to celebrate tonight.
Let's celebrate. And by the way, guys, I have last news for you. We only had two shows, two sessions, and one without Jack. Sawyer actually did great last week, Jack. It was fantastic. So one with you, one with Sawyer. We are now the most viewed crypto show on Twitter. Believe it or not, even Bankless guys. By the way, guys, Bankless guys, hello. We actually beat them every week. So let's just continue. And it's all because of our great community. And I think we're going to add more fun stuff to the show. We're going to add more interactions. Also, if you guys think about some things we can add to the show, make it more fun, please tweet it to us and I will be happy to implement it.
Yeah, or topics. If you have topics you want to hear Stan talk about something, say it, tell us. Okay, we'll go deep.
100%. Guys, pleasure as always. And to the viewers, we will see you guys this time next week. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.